Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is a Paperbacks from Hell type of book, The Eyes of Darkness by Leigh Nichols. Leigh Nichols is actually Dean Koontz. It's one of his early pseudonyms. I don't know if he continued to use it for very long, but that's who wrote this book. The Eyes of Darkness came out in 1981, right in the golden age of paperback horror, and it was written by Leigh Nichols, as I said, the pseudonym of Dean Koontz. This one has one of the lovely I guess you could call them peekaboo covers. I think there's a name for them and it's just escaping me right now. But these were a popular gimmick in this era of publishing. We see the eye on the front against the purple background, and then inside the front cover, we have a couple of very dramatic illustrations that hint at the contents of the novel. And you can kind of see like the little, you're kind of peeking at those through the little peekaboo thingy in the cover. I can never get enough of these covers. I just love them. I remember how exciting, they were when I first came across them. I remember kids' books sometimes had these, and I don't know, it's a gimmick. It works on me. What can I say? So this book has an interesting story attached to it. It recently became re-famous. Is that a thing? Re-famous? It is now. In popular culture again, because some people felt that this book predicted the coronavirus decades before it happened, which sounds very cool and clickbaity and is a fun reason to read this book, I guess. Though in reality, while the book has, some similarities that you could draw, it's a bit of a stretch really to suggest that it predicted anything. This theory about the book is more of a conspiracy theory, the idea being that the American government is conducting secret medical experiments in response to a man-created virus that went out of control and has some similar symptoms and things to the coronavirus, I guess. In the book, originally, the virus was created by the Russians. So, like, in my imprint, it's the Russians. But in later prints, for various reasons, it was changed to being called the Wuhan virus. So that's kind of, where this kind of conspiracy theory thing comes in, I guess, or this idea that it predicted it. In truth, this mention of the virus is really just a couple of pages at the very end of the book, and it's not the main thrust of the narrative by any stretch. The story is more about grief, the supernatural, and a mysterious cover-up operation than the virus itself. So outside of that claim to fame, is the book actually worth reading? So let's just kind of duck back to the beginning. The Eyes of Darkness is the story of Tina, a Vegas show choreographer who lost her son Danny a year ago when he died with a group of kids on a scout camp trip. Since then, she's slowly rebuilt her life, thrown herself into her career to kind of distract herself and work to keep busy. But one day she seems to start getting messages from the beyond telling her Danny is not really dead and he needs her help. The story is a paranormal thriller, which is a really fun genre, honestly. Tina has survived the last year of grief. She's working on a show that looks like it will be a real hit. So, her life's kind of looking up a little bit. And when she meets Elliot, who she cautiously starts to date, and then strange things start to happen, including a message, "Help me," written on little Danny's chalkboard in his old bedroom. She's skeptical, but she ends up running her story by Elliot, and it's cool, like he listens to her. So they end up teaming up to ask questions, and soon shady government agents are after them. So there's this kind of, race against time and a bit of a mystery to be solved. We have some spooky ghost-like happenings, a mother with strong maternal, maybe even psychic connection to her son, and then the thriller elements of them having to plan, go on the run, survive, etc. And of course, the mysterious element of finding out the secret of, is Danny still alive? What really happened to him? I think the plot, it's 81. It reflects that 70s era government paranoia and conspiracy kind of thing that was in the zeitgeist, I guess. And that wouldn't really feel out of place in the 90s X-Files era. So, the horror elements are pretty creepy and they work really well, but they're not too scary. So if you're not like really into scary horror, this could be kind of a fun one for you. I really liked Tina and her career woman thing. She's soft but strong. She's relatable and interesting to read about. I found that her Las Vegas career meant that the book had an interesting setting and she seemed like, an interesting person. We don't kind of get people with that kind of job very often as our main characters. There are moments when she's a bit dim about halfway through, not asking the obvious questions or doing the obvious thing, in order for the book to progress the way the author wants. But, that wasn't too annoying. That happens sometimes in these books. I think I'm a little bit forgiving about that in old horror paperbacks. Elliot, her new beau, is conveniently an ex-intelligence man who has just the exact skills to keep Tina alive and the exact right connections to sort of find things out and know what to do next. So he's a lot like the classic, too perfect thriller male lead character. But I like Elliot. He's a nice person. He has his own personal grief to contend with, so he understands her, and he's quite sweet about the way he feels about Tina. I liked their relationship. They have a nice dynamic with each other, and I think the inclusion of a romance angle in this book is nice. It felt kind of hopeful after the sad, she's lost her son. It was kind of nice to have something nice. But their flirting style and some of their romance scenes are very dated and a bit cringe, which is honestly, it's kind of part of the fun of reading these old books. Kind of love that, as long as it's not dated in a negative way, if you know what I mean. So this one's not a long read. Initially it gets going quickly, but it has some slow moments as well. So maybe it's a little bit uneven in its pacing, but I enjoyed it. It's not like Stephen King level writing. It's not, it's definitely like a Paperback from Hell, Pulp Fiction, it's entertaining enough. It reminded me of a budget Firestarter or The Fury, which those both feature psychic kids and shady government agencies and stuff. But here the kid is more the MacGuffin than a lead character. It's definitely a bit more, cheesy than more quality. But it's kind of a ride in a way that I liked. Not something to think about too hard, but it has its charms. So this is one of the author's early books, and perhaps more, it's like sci-fi thriller, paranormal thriller, which was a genre at the time that was doing well. So, it was kind of written under pseudonym, so he could just kind of pump out books, make money. No shade, no judgment from me. So I feel like it's kind of a little bit different from his output under the Koontz name. It's a bit commercial, and it doesn't have the Dean Koontz narrative voice as much as his later novels. But I haven't read a lot of Dean Koontz. I'm a bit more of a Stephen King fan, I think. Have you read this one? Do you think it predicted history? Are you a fan of this author? I'm kind of curious to know. Let me know in the comments if you have any, recommendations or anything like that, or what you think. And thank you for watching. It's always nice to hang out with you.